So there have been some sales numbers that have been revealed for the Resident Evil franchise, their lifelong sales, given from their initial release to all the other variations of said games that have released afterward, all accumulated into a sort of top 10 type of chart. And what it turns out is that not the classic fixed camera angle style or even the newly first person style that was introduced in Resident Evil 7, not new to the franchise, just new to the mainline series at least, that those types of games did not sell, or at least sell nearly as much as Resident Evils 4, 5, and 6. And while that shouldn't come as a surprise to most people, to Resident Evil purists, this might be a complete and utter shock, considering the fact that they always make the argument of how fixed camera angles are perfect, how fixed camera angles would make more sales, how fixed camera angles are the end-all be-all, and that you can only make a good Resident Evil title just by using fixed camera angles. And according to sales, clearly not the case, because seemingly more people have bought the over-the-shoulder style of games as opposed to the fixed camera angle style. And even compared to Resident Evil 7, yeah, they just ended up selling more. And to me, it just seems funny, because you'll always have these purists who are going to argue this stuff. They're always going to make the arguments that, there's nothing wrong with fixed camera angles, that they're perfect, that they will make a lot of money if you introduce this stuff, or that the only way you can play a Resident Evil title is through fixed camera angles, or that if you're making a survival horror, the only way that it can be good is if it's in fixed camera angles. And clearly that isn't the case. Clearly people have been buying other types of Resident Evil titles and other types of survival horror titles that have clearly outsold those classics. That's not to say that these games are bad. It just means that more people bought into some of these other games because they just felt like those were more appealing. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because it's partially a response to Renegade Operative, but also partially just talking about my thoughts on how people perceive fixed camera angles and stuff like that. To me, it's very funny how these people, they love fixed camera angles so much, but whenever there's an indie title that comes out or being in development that needs needs fan support or needs some kind of support, whether it be through Kickstarter and GoFundMe and stuff like that, they're never there to back it up. They're never there to make videos to spread the word of these games. They never try to talk about these games in depth. They never try to see if maybe if Resident Evil isn't giving them the things that they want, that they should just jump ship and move on. They never do that. And this was something that I pointed out when I was calling out Nemesis way back when, a few months ago, where I was saying, how come people haven't talked about Daymare? How come people haven't talked about IOU or Road Fever, for example? I think now the channel Residents of Evil, they're getting their own game, and surprisingly, that's also getting fixed camera angles. But nobody, from what I've noticed in this purist type of mindset, has ever once talked about these kinds of games, at least from what I have noticed. And if they have, they go unheard. To me, it just seems kind of funny how they're so fixated on one franchise not having fixed camera angles that they're just not doing anything more productive than complaining. And if they're not complaining about fixed camera angles, they're complaining about the costumes, just a slight hair color, sleeves on a fucking costume. Really, some of these people need to understand that if you don't like the costume, A, it doesn't affect gameplay, B, you don't have to use it, and C, if you really don't like the design, you could always just get the game on PC and then mod it. But these people will not do that because it's not their type of Resident Evil game. It's not the kind of Resident Evil game they want. It has to be that way. Otherwise, Capcom is just doing wrong, and they're lying to the fans and shit like that. To me, it's silly. it's silly because, you know, again, as I said before, rather than be productive and support some of these other games that could use the support that are pretty much giving them what they want, or better yet, you know, instead of taking the time to learn how to make a game and potentially make a game that appeals to them, they don't do that. They spend most of their time bitching and complaining about something Resident Evil related. So long as it doesn't have fixed camera angles, they will sit there and go like, well, I'm depressed because the game is over the shoulder now. It's a survival horror, but it's over the shoulder and it's not the type of game that I want.
The gameplay for the remake of Resident Evil 2 has finally been revealed. When I first seen the teaser trailer footage, I was more than a little disappointed, but not really shocked or surprised. I think most people had a pretty good idea that it was going to be an over-the-shoulder game. I watched the footage just before I went to work, and pretty much all day in work I felt depressed at the thought of not getting the remake that I always wanted.
That's the kind of people that I'm talking about here. Like that's what they pretty much do. They all they do is just sit and complain. And, you know, with facts, you can see that clearly Resident Evil, as far as it being fixed camera angles, doesn't sell well. Regardless of whether or not you think the games are good in that particular playstyle, or just in general, if you think the games are good, regardless of how you feel about the playstyle, they do not sell well compared to over-the-shoulder style Resident Evil games. And that's something that's going to be proven time and time again. Granted, I am not disagreeing with the fact that I think some horror games would be better off as a fixed camera angle style, or that there should be more fixed camera angle styled horror games. Hell, I'm not even against, or at least entirely against, first person horror games. I do think that there needs to be variety within that genre, but constantly bitching and complaining about a franchise that has long since parted from that playstyle is completely redundant and a waste of time. If you want to do something more productive, either make your own fucking game in that playstyle or support some of these indie devs that really need the support. Otherwise, it's your loss and you can keep on bitching, but it's really not going to change anything. That's my 2 cents on the whole subject of Resident Evil sales, and I kind of threw my 2 cents in on the whole costumes thing. So besides that, I would just like to know what you all think, because I'm pretty sure you all might get a kick out of this, considering the fact that it's not affecting gameplay, and yet people are still bitching and complaining about a camera perspective, acting as if it's going to make the world of a difference if it's in that or not. But I don't know, you tell me. But anyways, my name has been BioDevilDom. You can feel free to subscribe, leave a comment down in the comment section down below, and if not, you can feel free to leave a like or dislike. I don't really care. That being said, I will see you all in the next video. Bye.